Hey, it's Nick. We got a good episode this week. We sat down and answered all the questions that have been racking up over the past couple months, and we ended it with a good debate on Dyson. So I think it's a good episode. I think you all enjoy it. Also, we're still running our affiliate link with Vasoon. Vasoon creates amazing KYOSHY assets for designers like you and me who probably don't have the time to create that amazing apartment interior and just want to be able to drag and drop a chair in and make it presentable for a client. I've used their assets in the past in my work, and I really enjoy it. So check them out. Use our affiliate link because every purchase you make helps us out as well. And you all know the deal. Like, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast, give us 5 stars on Spotify, give us a follow on Spotify. Give us that thumbs up on YouTube. Make sure you do the thumbs up on YouTube. Thumbs up on YouTube is really the big thing. That's the algorithm booster there. We really appreciate that. And yeah, let's hear the amazing intro by KYOSHY the Kid. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
And we're 2 designers in the big city.
Sweating the small stuff. No, see, I'll do it with my left hand. You do it with your right hand. And then we high five in the middle.
Should I do the swoosh again? There.
And
that's
then,
a real high five, people.
Yeah. And then the high five, like the sweat on our hands just explodes upon impact.
Do some special effects. We should get some practical effects. Get a water balloon in here and just smash it. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah,
you're in the city.
Back in the city.
Just
for
hanging
a
out.
Limited time only.
Visiting friends and.
Yep, we are in the final countdown for Baby Watch 2023. So in the final weeks before this baby comes, we're like, be nice to take a trip up to the city and do all that kind of stuff.
Then you'll be busy, man.
I'm going to be very busy.
I mean, you're already really busy.
It's the end of the podcast. It's over. 2 kids and it's over.
No, I mean, we've really stuck it out, man. 5 years going, and
we're
on
5 years.
110 episode 110.
Oh my God, we're super seniors. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we can't stop it. We got to do it until we die.
Yeah, it's an unhealthy addiction. We'll go into withdrawal.
But yeah, man, I think we just did an episode recently, so
yeah,
we got our updates out. Except I wanted to, since you're here physically, I just wanted to give you the recent strap box update, let you critique it, see what you think about it, because I don't think last. I don't know which episode it was. We did look at the strap box, and this was the Douglas fir version. Our friend Dylan, our mutual friend Dylan, was helping me make some prototypes and was, did a great job. I mean, this one is so nice with this marbled effect.
Yeah.
But, something about making a product is like, it also has to be affordable for everyone.
Right.
And so I've been researching and trying to figure out how I can make this thing more affordable, and maybe just like to talk a little bit about the scenario here. So the strap box obviously is this plywood box with the ratchet strap that holds everything together, and plywood is not the cheapest material. Like it costs a good bit, especially when I'm getting into like birch and some of this Douglas fir stuff. A sheet of that costs like $150, and I can get six boxes out of a sheet of plywood. So you do some math, and you're already looking at $25 per box to make it, and that's just the material costs. Of course, you have labor, and you also have to, the ratchet strap itself is $10. Even if you buy it wholesale overseas, it's like still $10. And so, everything kind of coming together, I really wanted to make this thing locally because it was, it's a larger piece of furniture. I assumed, shipping would be pretty expensive overseas. I've got quite a few quotes locally, like with just getting it cut, maybe even just keeping it raw, and was coming out to $50-$60, which, I think maybe people who are veterans in the design industry might say, okay, yeah, that's pretty expensive. Maybe if you don't know much about pricing and stuff, then it sounds cheap to you. But usually the rule is 4x the material cost, or the I guess landed cost, what they call it. Like, you should price your products, retail price should be 4 times whatever it costs to make it. So 4 times 60, or even 75 if you wanted to like paint it or something, is like, what's that? That's getting up to like $300 retail costs.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting kind of tough there to, in my head at least, like, would you pay $300 for a plywood box that's strapped together with a ratchet strap? I don't know. So
yeah, the pricing game, it's not an easy game, because if you price things too cheaply, then people don't see any value in it.
Yeah.
If you price things too high, then people are like, who do you think you are? And so it's a really delicate balance. I mean, there's like, I feel like I've heard this somewhere. I have never gone to research and verify it, but I think I heard that like Smirnoff vodka used to be a lot cheaper and nobody bought it, and then they raised the price and people started seeing it as like a premium product.
Yeah.
And they started buying it. So like I could imagine like if you got it done locally and like it was just like the best materials that you could get for it, then maybe people would see the value in it. 'Cause to me it is like, it does kind of feel like an art object in that it's just like, the strap just like takes it over the edge of like being an art object rather than just being, something that you would find at IKEA.
Right.
So I don't know. That's a tough game.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that was kind of my scenario, was like, I could price it at $300 or $350 or something like that. But then the costs of that would be held up by the brand value, right? It would be kind of like a luxury thing, right? It's like this, I guess Herman Miller's maybe not the best example, but like maybe like Louis Vuitton or something, where like the actual cost of the product is nowhere near what it actually, it retails for.
Yeah.
And all of that is held up by the brand value, not necessarily the design value. I mean, so if I went that route, like I really had to start like questioning the positioning of the brand. And I am working on a rebrand for Almost Objects, so that'll be at some later date. But
yeah,
it's tough because I never really envisioned doing the luxury thing for my products. I kind of wanted to make my products not like cheap, but at least affordable.
Well, and like more so for your personal like Almost Object style brand. Like if you're licensing to other people, then maybe it's going into more of like a luxury space.
Yeah. So I mean, just to differentiate that, of course, like Nicholas Baker Studio designs for companies and licenses out. And then Almost Object is the design brand that I produce products under.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like opposed to doing like luxury stuff.
Yeah.
For licensing, but
I love this color combo, by the way.
Thanks. The blue strap.
Blue. I feel like
the birch ply.
People be loving the blue right now. This, however, is one of the worst color combinations.
Black
Black with
painted.
a white strap. It looks like a cheap tuxedo. I'm sorry, Nick.
That's
I think
good.
It's got to be black on black.
We have plenty of colors here. I mean, there's
Yeah, it's just got to be totally murdered out. Don't ever do this again.
Well, yeah, you gotta test the colors to know. Which one's
not
good.
even the red. I don't think the red either. I think, but yeah, I think. No, I think this is it. I think the natural. Sorry, I think the natural with any. I feel like with most colors, but I feel like especially with the blue, blue or yellow or that. Yeah, I'm not feeling that green, but I think that's very, very nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Is so also just to update you on this is, the American made version was coming in $60 to make unfinished, right? And I haven't even added in the painting or polyurethane finish. So it was like, I don't know how much it'd be, but overseas getting these made in China is, I think I'm coming in around $40 to make everything included, which brings it to 160, 175, maybe even could go up to like 190.
Yeah,
I really enjoy being under 200
mm-hmm.
because I feel like that's a approachable thing. I mean, the thing is like what you're saying, like the strap can either elevate it to this art object, or it feels more DIY.
Yeah, I feel like if you were gonna go art object route, you would have to get like a mirror finish polish on the
ratchet.
The ratchet.
I don't, it wouldn't be that hard to do, I think.
Yeah, it's cool. I feel like we're broadcasting on some like QVC competitor.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, this is like the stuff that
but
we
this
would
is
talk about.
this is like
off the pod. So
yeah,
it's nice
this is cool. This is like an insight into like something that I don't think a lot of, especially students, are exposed to when it comes to design.
Yeah, if you're listening and you want to give your 2 cents on how much you would pay for the strap box, shoot me a DM because I'm curious.
I feel like most students are going to say the sub 200 price, but is that your market? That's the other question. That's the other big question that everybody has to ask themselves when they're like thinking about how to price things, how to make them, what's the story. It's like, what is the market that you're selling into? Like, are you trying to sell into that market? Are you trying to get, younger people exposed to your brand so that then they are brought in and engage with some of the other things that you're doing?
Yeah.
Or is it about like people in their 30s or something with maybe a little bit more cash? They're looking to like invest in objects in their house. And so,
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think, I would love for as many people to enjoy the products as possible.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily, I don't know if that's like the right business decision, right? That's the designer in me and not the business man in me. The other thing is, I think I asked a while back, thoughts on price. And it's so funny to see just the range of numbers that people will send in.
Yeah.
I just posted on Instagram because some people would put in like $20.
Yeah.
And then some people put in like 300. And it's just like, oh, wow, these people there's just so many different opinions. And it's like,
right.
It's almost like, well, it doesn't matter.
Alternatively, with something like you did with the yield chair, it's like you made an instructional how-to of like how to make the yield chair. So is it another case where like, yeah, if you're selling it assembled, it's this price, like based on the materials that you've gathered using local manufacturing, whatever. But then you also like open source the design plans.
That's not a bad idea, actually. I mean, I will say someone did actually send me a photo of the strap box that they made. They made one. And I didn't release the plans, but it's simple enough that anyone could just look at it and make it. So I think there's probably some play there. I definitely like that direction and vibe of kind of like making it democratic from a, open source standpoint, but also if you actually want the real thing, you can purchase, the one that I've designed. I mean, we can go down in the weeds here, but I do want to start introducing digital NFTs that accompany each physical. I was talking, I think we were on Threads. I was talking to Eric Trine, and Eric was talking about the Be Original America's organization, which is an organization in the U.S. that essentially promotes original design and tries to fight knockoff furniture, which is a whole other topic that we could get into of like, you know, is that a lost cause of a, you know, it's like everyone has like fake shell chairs in their, you know, apartments, or you see them all the time on the street in New York.
Speak for yourself. I'm an ethical person.
No, what's more ethical, James? Saving chairs off the street or buying brand new ones?
Oh man, you got me.
But so yeah, there's that whole side of things, and I think there's actually a lot of opportunity to kind of tie, you know, a digital token to authenticate a physical product together. You know, I could go on my soapbox about that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe overall, I'm just curious because this is the first time you've given me a critique on this latest update. Do you feel like the finish quality and like the quality of this, does this feel like a good $200 product to you? Or
yeah,
you know, like,
of course,
because like originally this DIY version that's unfinished, would you say that would be $200, or would that be a little bit more hard to sell at $200?
I don't know. I think I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah,
at 200,
but
or above 200.
This birch with the blue strap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think, I don't know. I almost feel like if you're going to go this route, I would almost see more value in having like this and another smaller sized one, like that are paired together.
Yeah.
And that are like 250 or something. Like combo, like have a little bit more, and then you feel like you've got a little bit more to play with.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe. Well, the thing is that it's modular, so you could, if you bought two of them, right?
Yeah.
You could put all the long sides together because they kind of run around. The notches run around.
Yeah.
And you can make a big square and a little square.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's an option to say, you know,
$300 for two,
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems a little maybe too cheap. I don't know if the pricing on that, but something like that.
Yeah,
where it's like buy two, get a discount.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Or do you want to keep this up for the
as we put down?
You don't want. Sometimes I get so animated with my hands that I don't want to
knock it over. Leaning tower of strap boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There was the other thing that I just wanted to touch on, which was the Quest Pro. And then we have a bunch of questions. So I don't know if we do skip that for next time for question time.
What? Skip the Quest?
Well, okay. Maybe I'll just quickly go over it because I forgot about this update. When the Apple Vision Pro came out, obviously it was announced, the input method was the unique thing where you're looking with your eyes and then pinching to select items.
Yeah.
And apparently, well, I don't know the internal thing at Meta, but I feel like they have tested that method before, and for whatever reason they didn't, pursue it. But the Quest Pro has eye tracking.
Oh.
So there were some developers that just made some, off the cuff demos of that exact interaction of looking at UI and then pinching to select it. So I downloaded a demo, and it's kind of interesting. It does work. It does have kind of a telepathy feeling. And these demos were really rough just by from just random developers, and also it seems like the Apple headset has a lot more machine learning implemented into it, where it's like it doesn't necessarily track your I mean, it obviously tracks your eyes, but it's Apple's version seems like it's predicting what you want, right? It's like looking into your eyes and reading your mind. That's essentially what I was reading about. So, yeah,
the apple of my eye.
Exactly. The one.
Sorry,
I'm
a father.
No, it's the one comment I had about this new method is, and maybe Apple has just solved it so perfectly that it doesn't matter. But the demo I tried felt like. Have you ever thought about your breathing and then you're like, oh, I'm conscious that I'm breathing? It felt kind of like that, where it's like your eyes are a unconscious, involuntary thing where you're just looking around. You don't think about what you're looking at. You're just looking around, and then thinking about where you're looking at, because now your eyes are the input method, felt very much like thinking about your breathing.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe it just takes time to get used to that, or if Apple's just solved that completely where it doesn't matter. I mean, I assume it's perfect, so I don't really have an issue. But that was the interesting thought on the demo that I had.
Yeah, I'm eager to.
I should have let you try it before the pod.
It's fine. I'm eager to try on the Apple one to see what it's like. I mean, all the reviews from people who have used it have said it's pretty incredible, but
we did have someone in Discord already got their hands on it.
Who?
I think Unshiny?
Was it Steve?
No, I think it was Unshiny Jason. I forget.
Oh, okay.
I always remember people's handles and not their actual.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Does live up to the hype. That was the final conclusion. It's okay. It does feel great.
Sweet.
So
nice.
I mean, I'm super eager to try it on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, man. I think
it's
time.
It's time to answer some questions, because we have not done that in a while.
Yeah, we've put it off for like probably half a year, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll read this first one here.
Is that an entire question?
It's a big one, and I tried to slim it down, and I apologize.
Did you ask ChatGPT to slim it down? Give us the gist.
Yeah. So.
All right, get tucked in, everybody.
All right, so this person says, this is from Kanad. They say, hey, Nick and James, I currently find myself in a situation where I'm applying to jobs, working on my portfolio, and at the same time trying to improve my design skills. And they go on to say that I've graduated college and I'm kind of lacking the push that my professors and my colleagues have, instilled in me to improve. When you're alone, it's a little bit harder. So they're stuck. They're trying to find design exercises and practices to engage with on a daily basis. And Kanad says that they sketch every day and read different articles and books related to design, but I am aware there is much more to the craft than what meets the eye. Understanding there's no one-size-fits-all approach, I'm curious to learn about your design exercises and practices you engage with on a daily basis. Could you share some of those activities that you find beneficial for your skill improvement, and how has your approach changed over the years? Do you have any daily practices as a designer that you have used that have impacted your career? And how has that changed over the years?
I guess very early on, I was sort of very in a rhythm of sketching regularly. Like I really wanted to be able to sketch on anything, using anything kind of mentality, which is kind of the core of what my Instagram started as.
Yeah.
But like just communicating through sketching, getting really efficient at it, figuring out like where there's just sort of unnecessary fluff or whatever. It's like when you look at designer sketches, like there is this sort of like super Cintiq style sketching, and then there's like the really nice like pen and paper, like minimal line, like efficient use of line work style thing. And so I think I was doing that a lot. I was also like, I don't know, with something like the helicopter project, using just like really trying to get faster at SolidWorks and moving into rendering. And
I mean, those were kind of like short, quick exercises.
yeah, but like daily routines.
Yeah.
I mean, daily routines were showing up to work and like trying to be better than I was the day before.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing that I had issues with early on was in my career was just like confidence issues of just not feeling good enough. And so, but I feel like if you do have those kinds of issues, the only way to push through those is just to keep at it and like not let yourself get too, what's the right word? Like dissuaded or like get too down on yourself. I mean, I still get down on myself for things here and there, but I feel like more recently I just feel like I have a much healthier approach to design than I did back then. I feel like I know when to stop working on something, when to like move on to something else, like how to manage timelines.
Yeah.
And like and within that timeline manage like what is possible.
Yeah. Do you think that's a side effect of having a family and
yes.
Absolutely. Realizing that, you're a busy man now?
Yeah. Well, I think I really needed those last 3 years working full time at Peloton to like, I just met some really amazing designers who were like super organized, and just like knew what was possible within a certain time frame, but also had like, I think, a really healthy outlook on like work-life balance.
Yeah.
And so that was really important to like where I've gotten to today.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's really a great answer for this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because I would agree with you on the early days of improving my hard skills in like activities to do that, which was very much daily sketching, doing small projects to improve my 3D modeling or rendering skills. Obviously, back in the day there was a lot of the obviously Render Weekly is still a thing, but there was also a lot of like sketch pages and stuff you could submit to and would have topics to kind of motivate yourself from your peers online.
Yeah. I guess Sketch Wars is still going on.
Yeah, I saw that come back.
Yeah.
Which is the Facebook thing, which is so wild. Like not Meta, the Facebook. Remember the original Facebook website?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing that back when I was in Texas, like submitting to that.
Yeah, but we like weekly design challenge, that was like,
yeah, that was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
So I remember doing that. Obviously that's not a big focus for me anymore. I think there's this interesting thing that happens is, maybe this is kind of to your point too. You reach a certain point of proficiency in your hard skills, and so there's less incentive to practice those daily because it's more about I know the amount of skills required to complete my tasks of a designer, so I'm not really focused on necessarily improving those anymore. I mean,
yeah.
Well, there's that classic meme where you start out. It's a horse drawn.
Oh yeah,
but it's like drawn half is perfect, and then half looks like a kid drew it. And like the arc of a designer is you start out as a kid and you can draw a horse like really stick figure-y.
Yeah.
And then as you improve to junior designer, senior designer, you get really good. And then as you get to VP of design, and then famous designer, you just go all the way back to the kid's horse drawing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it is that sort of like that mentality of efficiency and like where you're spending your time.
Yeah.
Because I think I love ID sketching and I love seeing people who are like really good at it. And same thing goes for rendering, but all these things are artifacts of a process that is leading up to a finished product.
Yeah.
And so does it need to be that good? Like, It depends on where you're at and what you're doing. I mean, obviously, I can remember when I was in school and seeing Fuse Project coming up, and they would just release these beautiful like color pencil sketches of in each project. Like the process was always really celebrated, but I feel like at that time in their come up, they like that was a very important marketing tool to show, hey, we have a really rich process,
Right.
a really in-depth process of how we approach design. So you should work with us because this is the level of quality you will expect. So I think a lot of it just depends on where you're at in your career and what you're trying to communicate with people.
Yeah, I think for me now, I would say one exercise or practice that I seek out to try to improve my skills is just critiques from colleagues and friends, especially doing more independent work where, I'm pitching out, I'm just coming up with concepts, and I'm not necessarily working with a client or a team. It's, I need a sounding board. I need other inspiring designers to talk to and say, all right, what do you think about this concept? How can it get better?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like what we were just doing with the strap box. It's like,
right.
I mean, we talk about designs all the time. So I think that's maybe kind of the new exercise that I have adopted to improve my skill set is reaching out to others. And also, I think reading is a great thing. I think Kanad mentioned that they're reading a lot. So
yeah,
that also kind of fits in because it's like, if you can't reach out to some of these designers, you can also read their content or listen to their content or watch their interviews or whatever to kind of emulate what they would critique your project.
Right. And it gives you, if you find yourself in sort of an interview position, it just gives you things to talk about. Like you're maybe rounding yourself out in terms of your personality and
it's like soft skills kind of.
Yeah. Because I mean, so it sounds like from the question that they're trying to get hired. They're currently looking for work, right? So I think not only just making yourself a good-looking candidate in terms of your skill set, but also just as a person, like I don't know if this seems unfair or not, but there are a lot of people that when they're interviewing somebody, they're thinking, do I want to work with this person every day?
Yeah.
Like, are they an interesting person? What are they going to bring to our firm or whatever in terms of their entire vibe or whatever it is?
Yeah, for sure. It's a big thing. I mean, that's almost why you have interviews, right? It's like the portfolio gets you in the door, and then the interview is, all right, how do you fit in with this team? Are you going to fit in, right? Or are you going to be, this really abrasive person?
Yeah. But I think the last thing that I'll say is I do always love to see projects in portfolios where somebody has taken something beyond the rendering stage. And I think I've said this before in the podcast, but taking things to maybe a works-like prototype, just something to demonstrate that there's a level of thought just beyond I've made a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like if it's a really interactive sort of thing, like show the people that you're applying to that you have the curiosity to sort of take it to the next stage to prove something out, because sometimes that's the difference between whether a concept gets chosen or not, is like somebody has made a prototype to demonstrate its functionality, applicability.
Right.
It's really powerful. Still, like as you progress along your career, there's nothing like a physical prototype to sell people on your vision.
Yeah. I love that a lot. Yeah, I would say that's definitely something I still continue. Maybe I don't sketch as much or do the render things, but I really enjoy just sitting down if I have an idea and just kind of cutting up paper, hot gluing things together, being more free with how I'm kind of experimenting and playing with physical materials.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a fun exercise to do.
Yeah.
Great question, Kanan.
Yeah,
All
totally.
right, let's see here. All right. You want to read this one or should I?
Well, I can't read it from
Okay.
me.
That's fine. I'll read it. All right. So this one says, this is from Gene. Gene says, "Heyo, I have a few products launching this year. I always find the few months before the launch to be quite a roller coaster. I have worked only in startups, so it may be unique to that situation, but between Q&A, coordinating photo samples, and getting everything ironed out, there are so many cracks for things to fall through. Usually for me at this point in the design the design is done, and it's others people's job to do photography, Q&A, and all that. So I'd love to hear more and maybe commiserate about others' experience with that, with what I'll call the pre-launch jitters." Nick's Days collection might be a good framework for that discussion. And just maybe I'm just a nervous Nelly and this isn't more of a thing. Anyways, love the podcast. Keep on keeping on this, Gene.
Hey, thanks.
Hopefully that was coherent. I think I was like a little bit reading ahead. But yeah, so I think essentially Gene has worked at a place where maybe he didn't have to control as much of the product development as he does now. So, doing quality assurance and photography and checking samples is something that's maybe new and a little bit nerve-wracking. So I'm kind of curious. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have pre-launch jitters for products?
I think honestly you'll probably have a better sense of this because I haven't really done a product launch. Hasn't really been so much on my shoulders in my career.
It's kind of an interesting question because I've talked to Gene a little bit because Gene works at a outdoor furniture company. And yeah, it's, I think the thing that makes me nervous a lot of times is the unknown of whether or not people will buy it, essentially, like it. And I think that's obviously why Kickstarter comes into play. It's like, okay, especially with my own products, right? I think that's where the nervousness comes in. It's like, if I'm spending a bunch of money up front to order 100, 200, 500, 1,000 of these objects without knowing if people are going to buy it or not, or if it's, if maybe people want it but it's not priced right, or there's so many questions there that is really tough to mitigate, and it's just always going to be this kind of risk and nervous situation. And I don't know if I have a solution for that, but I would say, like, the thing is that I think, especially doing it by yourself, the nervousness can manifest itself in this prolonged development time. That's what I've found, where it's like, I am still going to design the thing because I'm kind of unsure about it. And I've had a few projects where especially for Almost Object, where I develop something all the way through getting samples made, and then I realize, actually, this is not right. Like, I don't like this product. I don't think I should sell it. Sometimes you have to go all the way through that. I mean, thankfully you don't order 1,000 of them, but it's a
litmus test.
Yeah. I mean, there's also kind of the pre-launch jitters around letting someone else take over that responsibility, right? You want them to uphold a great standard for the work that you designed. I mean, that's kind of how I feel with licensing, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way with some of the past projects you've worked on. It's like, you kind of have to hand over your baby, especially in client work. You kind of hand over your baby, and then the client is responsible for making sure that it gets manufactured correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
know if there's a solution there, but
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like I don't know if this is applicable or not, but I do kind of feel that sometimes maybe we put a little bit too much on ourselves as designers to try to take on all of these things. And there are people who specialize in putting together Kickstarter campaigns and whatever. And I mean, maybe even just meeting with those types of people will help you feel like get a sense for whether it's worthwhile or not.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you find a really great person that can do quality assurance or an art director who wants to take over all the photography and stuff, I think that can definitely alleviate some of the anxiety of doing it all.
Yeah. Because I just wonder how much we dilute ourselves trying to take on too much.
Yeah.
And I just, I've been thinking about this a lot in music lately. Like, I think everything to me comes back to music. I just think of things in analogies.
You're a music man.
But I've kind of noticed this trend lately, and I think the music and everything is still really good quality, but I feel like so much anymore is focused on a single person, and not a group, not like a band.
So much of music nowadays is a single person.
Yeah. Even if it is a band, it's all about the one person who's maybe doing all the recording, everything themselves.
That's interesting.
And there's a lot of people that I love that fall into that category, but I've been listening to a lot of 90s British bands lately, and they're like bands. And there's something really, I feel like there's something really good about that. I mean, obviously there's all sorts of creative differences and turmoil that can happen when it comes to a band, but I just I think you can think back to a lot of famous bands throughout history, and everybody is bringing something really unique. You think about the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or whatever, everybody is bringing this level of proficiency, and they're creating just astounding music. And I just wonder, there's this I feel like there's sort of this modern tendency where people are well, if I can do it all by myself, then I should do it all by myself.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that anything's going to get done. But I think if you can find a really good collaborator, then I just think that the work, I don't know, maybe it causes less burnout. Maybe there's that collaboration can bring unexpected things to the work that you yourself couldn't even see. I mean, you're saying you're bringing more people in for feedback. What has the experience been since bringing people in? Has that alleviated something for you? Has that made the process more enjoyable? What?
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically when I'm just doing internal concepts and projects, well, I kind of joke because sometimes I'll put this on close friends Instagram and do polls just to see what people think. But the joke is the polls don't matter because I've already decided the solution. It's more just boosting my confidence in my decision.
Boosting your confidence or your defiance.
Yes.
To go against.
There's a few things few polls that I've done where 90% of the people picked the wrong one. In my opinion, it's oh gosh. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just this having a little bit of a boost in confidence and from a trusted person. Mm-hmm. I think that's the tricky thing is bringing on another person to help with Q&A or whatever it is, art direction. You have to have trust and really admire their work. If it's if it's just you trying to hire someone so that you can ease your workload, I think that is a tricky situation where it could actually make things worse, right? Where maybe you hire not a bad person, but like an average person, and then you're looking at the work and being like, okay, it should be a little bit this way, it should be that way. I think it should be improved. I think the solution is to find the person that can really hit it out of the park, that really complements your skill set and really adds to it, and not necessarily takes away workload. I think you have to find that person to add to the project.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think about like collaborating with somebody like Derek Elliott.
Yeah.
It's like what you're getting back is, first of all, something that you are totally incapable of. At least I can speak for myself with the helicopter animations. It's like I can't do any of this, but also like Derek adding his own creative direction to the project just made it like that much richer. And I don't know, it's cool when you can collaborate with somebody who sees something like they are invigorated by your work and use that to push it further. Like that's, I don't know, that's just a lot of fun, and the end result is something that you couldn't have even expected.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's also really hard to find those people, but
yeah, it's like it's really hard to find a good therapist for yourself.
Yeah, sure.
Like the first time I went to go see a therapist for like my anxiety, he made me so much more anxious, like leaving. I was like, I don't think I should go back to this person.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Gene.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that helped, but I think, part of the question was just to commiserate, so I think we definitely did that. All right, next question. This one is from Josh. Josh says, I loved listening to you guys talk about sketching in Google Slides and quote-unquote Zoom sketching. I work as an industrial designer at a consultancy, and we use Miro heavily. We do a lot of mouse sketching, but with the Miro app, it allows us to sketch with iPad over images and directly in front of clients during team calls. What are your thoughts on apps like Miro and other online whiteboard tools? Love the podcast. Thanks, Josh.
I love Miro.
Yeah, I feel like this is a question for you.
Miro, I got exposed to it when I went full-time at Peloton. I think it was around the time that they started using it, especially around the pandemic for collaboration. But to me, Miro it feels like the way that my brain actually works, like the way that I can drop things in and organize it. Like there's a very loose organization to the board, but I just find it to be a very powerful tool for like collecting things, and also for presenting, because it feels, because of things like being able to sketch on the board and add post-it notes and things, if you're presenting to your team or whatever, it's very convenient to add notes to the board, to sketch over things, to say, duplicate a rendering and then sketch over it a little bit, and it's all there. It's all contained within the board. Yeah. So it's not like something where you are having to go to a couple different places to find all the feedback for what it is you're working on, but it's all there. It's all contained there, and I think I love it as a tool.
Have you tried Figma?
I haven't tried Figma. Okay. I've heard it's good. I know people who use that over Miro, right. And it seems like even some people use it as a substitute for Illustrator in some ways, which is really interesting. And also, Apple has their own Miro-ish thing.
What's it called?
I think it's called Freeform.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's got some...
Oh, I think I have seen that.
It's got some interesting features to it as well. I think it's a really great place for collaboration, for iteration, for notes. Like, it covers so many bases for me. And I know that the people at RemCon right now, whenever I use it, they love it. They love seeing that the notes are going directly onto the slides, the sketches, whatever. They can follow along as to what's being recorded,
right,
and know that stuff is not just going to get lost in a doc somewhere.
Do you present presentations out of Miro?
Mm-hmm.
So you create a deck of concepts.
Yep.
And then you present it, and then you can also zoom out of the presentation, and then there's probably like brainstorm sessions and everything else in there.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the vibe?
It's not too dissimilar when you're presenting in it. It's not too dissimilar from, do you remember Prezi?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not too dissimilar from that, although you can just go into pure presentation mode and it'll present like a
PDF.
Like a PDF.
Okay.
And you can export your slides as PDFs.
Okay.
They've also started adding some AI tools into there. So one of the things you can do is you can bring in a photo or an image, and they have an AI that will remove the background from that image.
Okay.
So you can basically make your own PNGs in there with transparent backgrounds.
Interesting.
So yeah, I really enjoy it a lot. I think it's a really great tool. Just, if it's just for yourself or for team collaboration.
Does each project go in their own board?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Each project gets its own board, and sometimes I feel like I've like overloaded a board. One of the things is that your board can definitely get too heavy with large files, and then it gets a little difficult. And so one of the workarounds that we used at Peloton, for instance, was to like with renderings, if we were doing really rough iterative renderings, just waiting a minute for the rendering to kind of resolve in the preview mode, and then just taking a screenshot and dumping it into Miro instead of rendering something out and putting it in. I think I can't say enough good things about Miro, honestly.
Interesting. I gotta jump back into it. I'm sure I've tried it. I've tried a few other ones. Especially when I was restructuring my business, I was kind of searching for the optimal solution for presentations and creating decks and things like that. I ended up just going back to Google Slides. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but it was kind of the best solution that I could find. But you make a lot of good point. You really sold Miro.
I will.
We need to call them up and get a sponsorship. That's what I needed. That's what
I will say. More recently, because RemCon is using the Microsoft suite, I've also done a lot of PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah.
And I think back in design school, when we all started to learn InDesign, I used to not think that it was worth it to do, like, I thought slide animations were maybe kind of cheesy and bad, but now I've kind of come around, and I'm like, maybe it's not. If it's done tastefully, I think, and like Keynote is also a great program. I think if it's done tastefully, it can make for a very like compelling presentation, as long as you're not just putting motion animation on everything, and everything's just so. It just gets too overwhelming. I think you just have to know how to restrain yourself from being too flashy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about you using PowerPoint in high school or middle school, where I would literally like make the craziest animation paths for like images. Or just like balls to the wall, just do whatever, Yeah, because you could stack those animations up and just have pure mayhem.
Yes, go. And the same thing when I was talking about Prezi. I remember, I won't name them by name, but somebody in my year at Tech
Was it Reach Schlegel?
No, it wasn't Reed Schlegel. Somebody in my year did a thesis presentation in Prezi that was the most dizzying.
Just upside down, spinning around.
Yeah, one of our professors, the one that I've talked about before, Bill Green, after the presentation was over, he's like, "Wow, that was something. I've never been in a presentation that felt like riding a roller coaster." It was great.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, great question, Josh.
Yes.
I don't really have feedback for you. I don't use any of those things.
He got all he needed from Papa James.
I do Google Docs. I do keep a lot of my kind of planning and strategy stuff in Notion. I kind of have a system of coming up with projects and tracking projects through completion in Notion.
Yeah, I've never really gotten into Notion.
Yeah. And also like organizing businesses and contacts in Notion, which kind of leads into the next question. So,
all right. I think we probably have time for one more.
Yeah, we have two more questions, but I think this one will be a short one.
Okay. The answer's no. Next question.
Well, we could also make the last one short, but I think the last one we're going to have a lot of opinions on.
Oh, no.
Okay. So this question comes from Patrick. Patrick says, I know at least Nick has some experience with licensing products. I'd love to hear more about the licensing process, priorities, considerations, etc. on an episode at some point. I have a specific product I'm working on for a while, and I'd like to start reaching out to potential licensors, but I'd also love to get a flow of consistent licensing work. I'd love to hear your thoughts y'all have on how to accomplish that repeatability flow or specifics to my current project. Thanks in advance. Keep doing what you're doing, Patrick. I will preface this with I am also very new to licensing. I've only been seriously pursuing it for the past 2 years, I would say, 2 or 3 years. But my flow, how I've created it now is I come up with concepts, and of course concepts can come from, or ideas really come from anywhere, whether you're in the shower or if you're actually actively sketching on something. And if I have a good idea, I'll jot it down and I'll put it into my Notion document, and I just have it so that it's like a project page. So if I have any notes on it, I can just type it in there. I don't drop in sketches. Maybe that's why I need to check out Miro, but I just have the project, and then the phases are, I think it's something like exploration, refinement, pitch deck, manufacturing, and then launched, or press kit. So if a project, if my exploration phase is empty and I need a project to work on, I'll go into the bucket of ideas and say, oh, this idea, I really want to work on this idea. Or if I get a client or a brand reach out that says, hey, we're looking for X type of lighting or furniture, or they have a brief, then I can look in the list of ideas. And so then I move that over and I explore the idea until I get to a solution I think is fine. And then the refinement phase is all about getting that idea to a rendered presentable state, whether that is creating a 3D model and rendering out, or whether that is actually physically building a rough prototype to test the feasibility like we were talking about earlier. It's all about proving out the idea and making sure it's good to go. And sometimes that sits around in the studio for a while before I feel confident in it. And I think that's also kind of why I like having this stage system where things can kind of stay in limbo for a while until I feel like it's ready to move on. And then everything goes into a deck. And so I have, 15, 20 concepts for products I'm wanting to license in a deck. And then I go through and I look at all the companies again in Notion. I just have a list of companies, and I've done a bunch of research on who I should contact at those companies or where to submit my deck to. And I just shoot it out maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months. Sometimes it'll be, very specific. If it's like a lighting company, I'll, build a deck just for lighting, or if it's for a company that, has a brief or a company that I really want to work for. Or sometimes I think another important thing I do is I kind of look at the company's current offerings and say, okay, what would they need in their product collection, or what do they not need in their product collection? Do I have a piece of furniture that is like kind of redundant that they wouldn't really want to produce? So I make sure I kind of scan and skim out any of that stuff. And then, sometimes I just do the cold email. I put it into an email and say, hey, love your brand, would love to work with you. Check out the products. If you see anything that you're interested in, we can discuss farther. That is the process that I have invented. That is, by no means the right or wrong way to do things. So it could be the wrong way, but it's, it may not be the right way.
Yeah.
So
all right.
That's kind of the spiel. I feel like we've talked about licensing a good bit since this question came in. So
yeah, that sounds like a good answer to me.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right, James. Last question. Are you ready for this one?
Oh gosh.
Did you already peek at it?
I got a full bladder. Let's do this.
Oh no. All right. This one comes from Joel. Joel says, "Hey Nick and James, love the podcast. I think it's time you guys finally gave us your honest takes on Dyson."
Oh no.
You've mentioned this a few times, and I'm interested in your thoughts, especially on the new Dyson headphones. Kind regards, Joel.
Oh well, I think we should leave the Dyson headphones out of this conversation. I don't think that
Is that the one miss of the whole?
I think that's, well, who knows? I mean, given all the wildfire smoke, maybe it's a hit that we don't even realize yet. But I don't think that touching on that is really going to do anything for the debate.
Do you need to take a bathroom break?
No, we can talk about this.
All right.
That's my bladder can wait. So I want you, because you're very passionate in your opinion of Dyson. So I want you to lay the groundwork.
Okay. Yeah.
Stake your claim.
So my take on Dyson is that I think the functionality of the products is amazing. And we have one of the Dyson cordless sticks at our apartment, and it works great. I've never had one before then, so it's great to try that out. And my biggest pet peeve is purely aesthetic. I think the biggest thing for me is the colors. I dislike the colors immensely because it feels very, I don't know, like childish or like random. I don't know. The combinations are just purples and oranges and reds and silver grays. Like there's just a ton of like. It's also very it's just very artificial plasticky, and it's just over the top, ornate mechanical aesthetic. And secondarily, I think the form of it is definitely kind of hyper functional, maybe is the right word. Almost like not even functional. It's almost like it's exaggerating its function, which I have come around to be less critical of the form, but I still think it would be really nice to have a beautiful cordless vacuum with the functionality of Dyson, but a nice, Muji aesthetic is kind of what I would really love. But that is my take on Dyson, is that it's very gaudy, and I've never really understood the aesthetic. So,
but how do you feel about the fans and like the hair dryer?
I mean, those are definitely a much more tame in terms of the form. I think there's something to be said about the fact that the fan is something that exists in your home, usually prominent, and a vacuum is something that's more hidden. Oftentimes, sometimes people keep the Dyson vacuum out as an art piece, but whatever. I'm still not I'm not like the biggest fan of the fan either.
Really?
Again, it's a really great functional product, and we've had one in our apartment. My roommate has all these things, and it's a nice functional object, especially like the filtered one. I've seen those before, and they're, it's amazing. It feels like a nice high-tech fan, but it doesn't. I don't know. It feels like it still feels like this weird sci-fi object in my home that it doesn't really fit. Although it's not like I have a curated home, anyways. But in my mind, that's how it would work.
Okay,
let's hear it, James.
Let's hear it. I think you're wrong. I think so. To me, the CMF, and hopefully I'm not offending our British listeners, but I think the coloring and the CMF I see as almost like a cultural CMF.
Interesting.
Because I feel like you tend to see a lot of these jewel tones in, like, if you visit Britain.
It's that royal family.
Yeah,
aesthetic.
exactly.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of a cultural thing.
Interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Like, obviously everything more recently has become a lot more globalized in terms of aesthetics, and so all you're getting are sort of the like safe aesthetics,
right?
Especially when it comes to CMF. And so there's something that I really like about the Dyson aesthetic, which is just, it's a bit more bold than you would see in anything else. I've interacted with other vacuums that are maybe a bit cleaner in their aesthetic, and while they may look nice and maybe some of them look nicer, that the experience of using them is just not as good, because I feel like Dyson has really honed the functionality.
Yeah.
I just also think it's remarkable that they made a vacuum into a luxury brand.
Yeah. Kind of.
With that aesthetic. And I feel like, it's almost, I could imagine a Dyson Balenciaga, collab with the exact same aesthetic, maybe modifications of the CMF. But to me, like those sort of like, I don't know what you call them, those tentacles or whatever on like the top of there is something,
like an engine, V8 engine or something.
Yeah. There's something about that that's just,
it's like dad shoe vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love dad shoes. So I just love that they didn't go for a tamed aesthetic.
Yeah.
I don't hate the aesthetic either. I think like it's interesting. I like looking at my vacuum, my Dyson.
Do you have it on the wall like an art piece?
We
because they have the charging station.
Yeah, we docked it in our closet at our last place. But yeah, I just think, I don't know. I just think it's such an interesting object. Nobody has really tried to copy that aesthetic at all.
Yeah.
Everybody's just going total Mac direction, and I don't want everything in life to be Mac.
Yes.
I do want some outliers, and I feel like that's in my opinion, Dyson is a good outlier. Although the fans, I would say, are more Mac than the vacuums.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they evolve the vacuum. If they ever abandon that that
hyper functional. I don't know what to call it.
But I think the experience also just sells it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on functionality. I don't think there's any disagreement there. I think it's that aesthetic. I think what I would wish is if they really wanted to lean into the functionality aspect of it, I almost wish it was more of a like a machined lug nut direction. More of a, I'm trying to think of like a good, like more of like a tool you would find in a old mechanical mill shop or something, like a big milling machine. I think that's kind of the functional form and aesthetic that I would appreciate if you wanted to go a kind of a hyper functional route.
Yeah.
But I think they just kind of went this futuristic alien function route with their jewel tones, and I don't know.
Dude, the 90s are coming back, man.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely in peak. We're getting there. I mean, I feel like we're getting early 2000s too.
We're getting.
You go to like Lower East Side and like Times Square. People got those.
Yeah, but they're
always
on. Like 5 years ahead of the curve. Yeah, that blob of mercury kind of aesthetic.
Oh yeah, Y2K vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't know. Do you think that if that Dyson came out with a vacuum that was just matte black, all matte black,
yeah,
do you think you would feel better about the form 100%?
Yeah, I have come around to not oppose the form. I think it's the form plus the color and finish that really pushes it over the top.
Yeah.
I'm still like, the form is okay. I think it would be really cool to have something a little bit more like, maybe brutalist is the right word. Like if you wanted to go functional, like honest functionality. I think that's what I would gravitate more towards. This is like hyper functionality where you're exaggerating the function.
Yeah.
I would like a honest functionality, like a.
Yeah.
But
I think
like
they're
an old car maybe.
Right. But I think they are really trying to sell them. They're trying to really enhance the optics of the functionality. Because, if you listen to the sort of Dyson, how I made this or whatever.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. No.
It's
James Dyson was on.
I forget if it was that podcast or a different one, but it's amazing. I mean, I am that much more intrigued by Dyson as a person because he literally, I think he quit his job and for 2 years he worked on nothing but the vacuum and made 600 prototypes. And what he used to do is like go to his backyard shed and he used to tweak just one part at a time.
Oh, wow.
So that he would know exactly like, if I tweak this part, how does it affect the whole system?
Trial and error.
But then he started direct to consumer with those vacuums, which back then it's not the like sexy market that it is now. He did direct to consumer and found success, and now, Dyson is a household name. So that part of it also for me kind of makes me love that brand even more.
Well, he's also the highest net worth industrial designer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, even more than Johnny. Like the thing is he owns the whole brand. Like it's it's not a public company or anything. Like you said, he started it from his shed or whatever.
And I think we talked about this a while ago on the pod, but he started his own engineering school within the company.
Oh, wow.
So you can go and train to be an engineer at Dyson, and so part of your work is like schoolwork, and part of it is actually working on products.
Yeah, like apprenticeship kind of.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's cool. I never knew that. I feel like you've given me some interesting little.
Yeah.
Notes.
I mean, obviously, all that combined, will it make you like the aesthetic anymore? Probably not. But
I appreciate the company as like a pioneer.
Yeah,
for sure, 100% from like a business standpoint. I admire that. Yeah, it's just, I mean, those colors. Give me that matte white or that matte black, and I would be much happier.
At some point, some company's going to come along that's going to get us excited about vacuums again. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Well,
I thank you for that question, Joel. That was definitely a good one to end on the episode. And thank you all to the questions. I appreciate everyone's patience because I know we've waited a long time to answer those. And if you have a question yourself, feel free to send it in, minordetailspodcast@gmail.com. We'll get to it on the next episode. Maybe we'll do these more block style, once every quarter or once every 6 months questions where we just, go through them all and
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. As always, I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
Peace.
Later.